want to share some information about criminal justice system, so have fun to learn. The criminal justice system is the machinery which the society uses in the prevention and control of crime. It is also deals with the problem of crime and criminality. It is also the system used by the government to maintain social control, enforces laws, prosecute offenses, administer justice, and sentencing and rehabilitation of the offender. In the Philippines, the criminal justice system are composed of 5 pillars such as law enforcement, prosecution, court, correction, and the community. However, in the US, they have only 3 pillars such as law enforcement, court, and correction. We have some definition of terms such as offender, the principal character in the criminal justice system. Suspect refer to a person who is subject of custodial investigation. The respondent refers to a person who is subject to preliminary investigation or inquest proceeding. The accused refers to a person who are charged with or on trial for a crime. And then the criminal refers to a person who was trialed by court and has been found guilty. First, we must tackle about the 5 pillars of the criminal justice system. And now, let us first discuss about the law enforcement, which is the first pillar in the criminal justice system. It is the prime mover and the initiator of the criminal justice system. And now let us discuss about the early development of policing. The history of police is as old society civilization. By natural instinctive drive, man always need protection for his society. Man first attempts to protect himself and his family, wherein they use barricades by the man in ancient period to protect themselves and their families. This was placed in the entrance of their caves and communities. Then the word police is originated in the Greek word politeia, meaning government of city. Then the Romans changed slightly to policia, and then after that the French changed the word to police. In ancient Egypt, the early Egyptian has also an organized police officer which was called magi. And they are not members of the military force. Then the first Roman Emperor Augustus formed the Vigils of Rome, which means purposeful or watchful, staying awake, whose duties is to keep peace and firefights. In Middle Ages, a system of mutual protection developed. Frank pledge system, which is the first policing system, wherein the community was divided into groups of 10 men. Then in England, they divided into shares or countries. Each country is being taken care of a reeve who is appointed by the king. The reeve, later called sheriff, or the highest rank among the law enforcement. However, there was an oldest warning device that is used to affect arrest of offenders, which is called the horn. Then, in 1195, King Richard of England issued a proclamation entitled Keepers of the Peace, which is a proclamation requiring the appointment of knights to keep the king's peace. In 1663, King Charles II employed 1,000 night watchmen or bellmen all over London. They were called Charlies, named after King Charles, but the residents of London called them Shiver and Shake. Then in 1748, Henry Fielding was created the Bow Street Runners. That organization was created to catch thieves. The Bow Street Horse Patrol was also formed, and they were called Robin Red Beasts. The birth of modern police or Metropolitan Police or New Police was in 1829 through the effort of Sir Robert Peel of England. He was the Home Secretary of England, and he introduced the first Police Act into the Parliament. Next, we are going to discuss about the evolution of the Philippine policing. Okay. In the Philippines, during the pre-Spanish era, the cabeza de barangay was the head and leader of a group of settlers. Then, the barangay head made the discipline and punishment as well as the conduct of government. Next, we have here the Carabineros de Seguridad Pública, which is the first organized police force, and its purpose is to carry out the regulation of the Department of State. Next is Cuerpo de Carabineros de Seguridad Pública, and their duties was the prosecution of lawbreakers and criminals. Then the Guardelieros, and their function is to maintain public security and order, patrolling in dark and unsafe area, and guarding the tribunal of municipal buildings and prison houses. And we have here the Guardia Civil, and it was created by the virtue of Royal Decree on February 12, 1852, and it were composed of Filipino mestizos, Indos, and Spaniards. During the American occupation, there was William Taft as the head of the Second Philippine Commission and as a civil governor. The Insular Constabulary, Philippine Commission organized the Insular Police Force through Act No. 175 on July 18, 1901. It is an act providing for the organization and government of Insular Constabulary, whose function were to preserve peace, keeping orders, and enforcing laws. The Philippine Constabulary was headed by General Henry Allen. Then, by virtue of Act No. 183 of the Second Philippine Commission, the Manila Police Department was organized on July 31, 1901, under the leadership of Captain George Carey as its first Chief of Police. On October 2, 1901, under Section 1 Act of 225, this act renamed the Insular Constabulary into Philippine Constabulary, and it is under supervision of American officer headed by Captain Henry T. Allen as being the first police chief. And the Republic Act 4864, otherwise known as Police Act of 1966, created the National Police Commission or NAPOLCOM to improve the efficiency of the police performance and to oversee the police functions. On August 8, 1975, Presidential Decree 765 created the Integrated National Police. And during this time, there were two police organizations existing. The Philippine Constabulary, which serves as the National Police, and the Integrated National Police, which serve as the local police. Then, the Republic Act 6975, otherwise known as the CLJ Act of 1990, approved by then President Corazon C. Aquino, took effect on January 1, 1991, unifying the local and national police comprised by Philippine Constabulary and Integrated National Police into Philippine National Police to establish only one police organization that is national in scope and civilian in character. And then on February 17, 1998, an act was passed by the 10th Congress, Republic Act number 8551, or the Philippine National Police Reform and Reorganization Act of 1998. In nature and functions of policing, according to Robert Peel, the police are the public and the public are the police. The known police officers are those who are paid to give full-time attention and render duties to every citizen, while civilians are viewed as voluntary or involuntary part-time workers to the social responsibility and concerns of policing. They cooperate and support the police officers in crime prevention, suspension, and solution. The police stands at the forefront of the criminal justice system. So we are now talking about the police in action. Patrol is a proactive measure in policing. Basically, all the function of police is an inherent police patrol function, such as patrol observation on public places, conduct investigation, checkpoints, assisting the people who needs police assistance, collection and preservation of evidences, arresting violators of law, preparing or making reports, controlling traffic and investigation of accident, and testifying in court. However, patrol is the backbone of the police organization and the eyes and ears wherein police plans and action are based upon. And one of the major responsibility of police patrol is crime detection, which is indispensable to establish an effective crime prevention. An effective crime prevention program. Crime prevention is deemed as a goal of policing, and it is also known as the first line of defense. And the first known formal crime prevention endeavor undertaken by official members of a duly constituted and formal police organization took place in London when the Scotland Yard or London Metropolitan Police was established on 1829 by Sir Robert Peel, who became later credited as the father of modern policing system. In police investigation, once the first line of defense, which is the crime prevention, is broken, then the second line of defense, which is the crime suppression, will take place. Investigating crime is one of tedious activity of a police officer. The first thing that the investigator should do in conducting investigation is to determine whether a law has been violated. Then after knowing the violation committed, the investigation must discover how it was committed, and then by whom it was committed, where was it committed, where was the crime committed, and under what circumstances, and lastly, why it was committed. To sum it up, there are the 6 cardinals of police investigation, and that such as how, whom, where, when, what, and lastly, why. And now we have the 3 tools of police investigation. First, information, which could be gathered or acquired to other person, witnesses, and victims of the crime. Second, interrogation, which is done by questioning the witnesses and victims to obtain further facts. And third, the instrumentation, which is the application of forensic science to obtain physical evidence. Next, the prosecution is the second pillar in criminal justice system, where it evolves within the discretion of the prosecutor in screening cases on determining and deciding which would be filed in courts and which of the case shall be dropped, and the determination to what crime shall be charged against an offender. It is the wish of every free enlightened government to do justice to its citizenry and strives to maintain a balance between social orderliness and human liberty. The burden in maintaining the balance is upon the prosecution pillar and in the shoulder of our prosecutors. No criminal justice in the world could absolutely guarantee that an innocent person will not be punished and the guilty will not be free. The eradication of this situation begins with the suspect and the process of determining the identity of the guilty through process that must be performed by the prosecutor. Furthermore, the prosecution is the process or the method whereby the accusation are brought before the court of justice to determine the guilt or innocence of the accused. The composition of the prosecution service are made up of the chief prosecutors, regional prosecutors, provincial prosecutors, city prosecutors, municipal prosecutors, and such other prosecutorial offices as may be established by the law. However, the prosecutor is a person who is a quasi-judicial officer who assumes full discretion and control over criminal case in the administration of justice. It represents the government or the people of the Philippines in criminal proceeding in court of law.
He determines which case shall be filed in court and what case shall be dropped. He also determines what crime should be charged against an offender. He also verifies whether or not the person arrested be placed under the criminal justice system. Lastly, he also determines whether the evidence is gathered by the police meet the standard of proof for successful prosecution and conviction. There are kinds of prosecution system. First is adversarial, otherwise known as accusatorial. Second is inquisitorial, and the third is mixed system. Next, we are going to tackle about the correction. It is the third branch of the criminal justice system concerned with the custody, supervision, and rehabilitation of criminal offender. It is a generic term that includes all government agencies, facilities, programs, personnels, procedures, and techniques concerned with the investigation, intake, custody, confinement, supervision, or treatment of an offender. Punishment. It is the redress that the society takes against an offending member of the society that usually involves pain and suffering. Then, there are some ancient forms of punishment included death penalty, physical torture, social degradation, banishment or exile, or other similar forms of punishment. There also have early forms of prison discipline included hard labor, deprivation, monotony, uniformity, mass movement, degradation, corporal punishment, and isolation or solitary confinement. Then there are some contemporary forms of punishment. First, imprisonment. It is putting the offender in prison for the purpose of protecting the public against criminal activities and at the same time rehabilitating the prisoners by requiring them undergo institutional treatment program. Next is parole. It is a conditional release of a prisoner. after serving part of his or her sentence in prison for the purpose of gradually reintroducing him or her to free life under the guidance and supervision of a parole officer. Next is the probation. It is a disposition whereby a defendant, after conviction of an offense, the penalty of which does not exceed 6 years imprisonment, is released subject to the condition imposed by the releasing court and under the supervision of probation officer. Next is fine. It is an amount given as a compensation for a criminal act. Distierro. It is the penalty of banishing a person from the place where he committed the crime, prohibiting him to get near or enter the 25-kilometer perimeter. And now we are talking about the definition of penalty. It is the suffering inflicted by the state against an offending member for the transgression of law. Then we are going to discuss about the Philippine penal system. The Bureau of Prison was renamed Bureau of Correction under Executive Order 292 passed during the Aquino administration. It states that the head of the Bureau of Correction is the Director of Prisons, who is appointed by the President of the Philippines with the confirmation of Commission of Appointment. Then the coverage of the Bureau of Correction, we have the National Bilibid Prison in Muntinlupa, Rizal. It includes the new Bilibid Prison, which is the main building, Camp Sampaguita, and Camp Bukang Liwayway. We have also the Reception and Diagnostic Center or RDC, Correctional Institution for Women in Mandaluyong. The penal colonies such as in Sablayan Penal Colony and Farm in Occidental Mindoro, Iwahig Penal Colony and Farm in Palawan, Davao Penal Colony and Farm in Central Davao, San Ramon Penal Colony and Farm in Zamboanga, Iloilo Penal Colony and Farm in Iloilo Province, and later Regional Prison in Abuyong, Leyte. And now let us talk about what is prison. It is a penitentiary, an institution for the imprisonment of a person convicted with a serious or major crimes. However, the prisoner is a person who is under the custody of lawful authority. And now, there is a general classification of prisoners such as detention prisoners, sentence prisoners, and prisoners who are on safekeeping. Then, there also a classification for sentence prisoners such as national prisoners, provincial prisoners, city prisoners, and municipal prisoners. And now, what is jail? Jail is the place for locking up of persons who are convicted of minor offense or felonies and serve a short sentence. There are types of jails such as lock-up jail, ordinary jail, and workhouse, jail, farm, or camp. Then the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology or BJMP exercises supervision and control all over the cities and municipalities in the country. It is created under the Republic Act number 6975 and it operates as a line bureau under the Department of the Interior and Local Government. Then the bureau shall be headed by a chief with the rank of Police Major General and assisted by a Deputy Chief with the rank of Police Brigadier General. Another component of criminal justice system is the court. It is the centerpiece of the CLJ and with the duty of determining whether or not the accused is guilty for the crime charge. Judge is a public officer so named in his commission and appointment to preside over and administer the law in a court of justice. However, crime and criminal is the main actors in criminal justice system in the Philippines. Then there are organization of courts such as regular court, special court, and quasi-judicial agencies. Regular court comprising of the Supreme Court. It is the final arbiter and it exercises the appellate jurisdictions over cases decided by the Court of Appeals or the Regional Trial Court. Court of Appeal, it is the second highest tribunal. It exercises the appellate jurisdiction over cases decided by the Regional Trial Court. Regional Trial Court, it is the court of first instance. It exercises appellate jurisdiction over cases decided by the Metropolitan Trial Court or METC, Municipal Trial Court or MTC, Municipal Trial Courts in Cities or MTCC, and Municipal Circuit Trial Courts or MCTC. So let us know the differences. The Municipal Trial Court, the imprisonment is not exceed 6 years and it only covers one municipality. The Municipal Circuit Trial Courts is the imprisonment is not more than 6 years but it covers 2 or more municipalities. And then the Metropolitan Trial Court not exceed also in 6 years but it covers only in the specific area inside the NCR. The second organization of court is a special court comprising Court of Tax Appeal. It is created by Republic Act of 1125 on June 16, 1954. It is the jurisdiction to review by appeal decision or the Commissioner of Internal Revenue or the Commission of Customs involving their respective responsibilities under the National Internal Revenue Code and Custom Law. A tax of court that is impartial, competent, transparent, ensuring the faithful compliance with tax and related laws. Then Sandigan Bayan tries and decides criminal and civil actions against government officials and members accused of grabs and corruptions and similar other offenses. Then the third organization of court, it is the quasi-judicial agency. It is an organ of government other than a court and other than a legislature which affects the rights of private parties through either adjudication or rulemaking. Then the last branch or component of the criminal justice system is the community. It is the one who is responsible for accepting the prisoners. Community is the most critical and useful component view of its massive and pervasive composition. The community with its massive membership has vital responsibility in law enforcement. The police rely on the citizens to report crimes and assist them in the conduct of investigation. The prosecution and the judge depend upon citizens as witnesses in the prosecution of the offender. And the correction pillar also need their support in their respective community-based correction program. Without the active participation of the member of the community, the processes of the criminal justice system cannot work. Enlightened and cognizant of their roles in the maintenance of peace and as well as in the dispensation of justice.